Hello and welcome to Season 2 of DCU Tonight. I'm your host, Rock Var. Very happy to be here. What a great season we have lined up. I can't express enough how fun this is going to be. Thank you guys for joining us again. Obviously, we've only had one season of the show. Something that we like to do very much, so we hope you like to do it too. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, this is DCU Tonight, live on, well, it's actually not live now. Oops, I already put foot in mouth. It's our show on our YouTube channel, VAR Nation, dedicated to the DC Universe. We talk about, of course, our favorite MMO, DC Universe Online, and we go through all the DCTV shows that are airing right now. We talk sometimes about movies and a lot about DC Comics, so thank you for joining. We do have a lot of changes this year. The number one change that you're going to notice right off the bat is we are not streaming live right now. So at least for right now, the show's not live. A lot has changed around the VAR household. We have recently had our first baby. And so that means Lyda is out. She's she's being mom right now. So I've got no co-host, but eventually there will be the three of us. Someday our little gamer will get his own headset, and hopefully we're still doing this show at that time. But at least for now, it's a little bit hard around here to do live stuff. You might have noticed our channel activity has dropped significantly. I have a new job. I work from home, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm free to do things. So we haven't gotten a lot of gaming time recently. We'll get back to it, but streams right now not really happening very often. Occasionally we jump in there and we can do some live streams, but it's a little bit hard to be live and be taking care of a newborn at the same time. So I decided this season I could try to do the show properly and record it, and that's going to actually help with the production value. It's going to help, I'll be able to throw in some fun stuff here and there, some sound effects and stuff like that. But, it might make things a little bit better. The thing that I don't like about streaming live is that our internet connection here is so horrible that a lot of things get cut out. And anyone who watches the show or has watched the show in the past knows I tend to go on some very long tirades about what's going on in the DC universe, and it's really frustrating I'm sure you've had this happen in your life. You get into the moment, you start talking about something that you're very passionate about, you really feel like you've made a very good point, you've finally gotten this off your chest, and you've had one of these dare to be great moments, and you go back and watch the footage and it got completely cut out. And so no one heard that but you, and so that's very frustrating when you're doing a show like this, because obviously I want to make this bigger and I want to at some point maybe get sponsorship for it and stuff like that. So we're not going to get any sponsors if our production value is garbage. So I figured it'd be best to go ahead and record things here. That's why what you're going to be seeing on the screen is not happening live. I'm going to throw in some footage from DC Universe Online. I'm going to throw in some random pictures and stuff like that to kind of make my points, to pave my points for me, and hopefully it'll make the show better. But let me know what you think in the comments. And we do this show to entertain. So if it's not entertaining anyone but me, well, if it's still entertaining me, I'll keep doing it. But if it's not really entertaining anybody else, there's really not a whole lot of reason to keep going. So hopefully you guys like what we have in store. Tonight we're talking about a little bit about Gotham. Okay, let's start back at the beginning. First thing we're going to talk about is DC Universe Online. A lot of changes, a lot of big changes to the game. I want to go into a little bit of detail, not a lot, but we are going to talk about some new stuff happening in DC Universe Online, both great and some a little bit frustrating, but all in all, good. No bad stuff, I don't think. And then we're going to jump into DCTV. DCTV's already started. Thank you. There's been nothing to do. There's been nothing on television. There's been some things. We've kept up with some other shows, but as far as DCTV is concerned, this is a big year for DCTV. A number of things have happened. Obviously Supergirl's moved to the CW. That's just expanded the CW verse dramatically. And so we're going to talk about this week. We've got Supergirl coming up on Monday, the 10th. In case I didn't say it, this is the week of October 3rd. There you go. That way you know which, and this is episode 1, season 2, episode 1 of DCU Tonight. But we've got Supergirl starting October 10th. We've already had 2 episodes of Gotham, 2 or 3 episodes of Gotham. We had our first episode of Flash last night, so that just told you when I'm recording. I'm recording this Wednesday night, and we've got Arrow happening tonight. So there will be a lot for me to talk about, and because the beauty of it is because I'm recording this, I can do it in segments and I can go into more detail about each show. So, but no spoilers. Well, some spoilers when we start talking about DCTV, which we will start here after the next segment. But first, we're going to talk about DC Universe Online, our favorite free-to-play MMO, our only favorite MMO, the only MMO we play, the MMO we love. I love to say MMO. DC Universe Online. So the big changes to DCUO that are happening right now, and I'm not going to read it word for word. You can, if you're just completely unaware with what's been happening with DC Universe Online the past couple of months and what's to come over the next couple of months, you really need to go to the forums. Go to the forum, the official forums, DCUniverseOnline.com. Click on the link for forums. Go in there and you can look under the announcements, and they will have all of the information that you need, the patch notes from the future and existing updates. And that way you can see what page we're on. But this news, I'm really happy to talk about it. I haven't gotten to do any updates on it, or I haven't gotten really to do many updates period in the past month, but I wish I could have. I wish I could have been breaking ground or breaking news with this report, because this first report, it really fills my soul with joy. So I don't know, and I've tried not to talk about it, kind of this depression that I had gone into over some things that happened in the game. Anybody that knows me knows that if something's out of whack with my comics, or if something's out of whack with my game, my life is in disarray. It's just, that's the way it is. When I saw Man of Steel, I was deeply depressed over what happened in that movie, even though it doesn't have anything to do with the real world. For some reason, just me knowing that, Superman's a neck snapper really hurt my soul. So, but moving on from that, you'll remember about a year and a half ago, of course, DC Universe Online and MMO, traditional MMO style mixed with some RPG, was the first MMO that Lyda and I ever played. We had no experience whatsoever playing an MMO. We got into DC Universe Online simply because we are comic book fans. I don't think we could ever call ourselves gamers. I'm pretty sure we will never call ourselves gamers. If I do, I'm kind of joking, or I'm just simply saying, I game a lot, but that doesn't mean I'm good at it. So, most of our existence, we had played single-player games. I was really into the Fable games. We were really into the Elder Scrolls games. Those were the types of games we played. So as far as RPGs were concerned, we were pretty familiar with how things worked. But the MMO aspect of the game, the building your character and the farming and the continuously upgrading gear and that kind of stuff, we were lost. And so when we started playing the game, admittedly, I was god awful. We started on PC. It was me and Lyda. She would backseat drive. We did that for about two years, where I worked the controls. Well, we weren't on PC for 2 years. We were on PC for a matter of months before we realized we had a junk computer, and we went and got the PlayStation version. But that happened for about two and a half years. I worked the controls. Lyda worked the brains. And that's how we would have typically gamed when we were playing the Elder Scrolls games, or when we were playing the Batman Arkham games. Anything that we would play up to that point, I would work the controls. Lyda would sit next to me on the couch with the book or whatever and tell me what to do. And there's a treasure chest over here, you have to go get it. Well, I'm being attacked by vampires. No, get that treasure chest over there in the corner before you forget. And so that was our life. And so when we started playing DCUO, imagine how that just expanded. So now we have a whole world that we can play in. We have all of these different things that we can track down, all of these collections, briefings, and stuff like that. And Lyda, she loved that aspect of the game. So we would go into a mission and there would be collections or briefings or whatever throughout that mission, and I'm playing as a DPS because I knew no different. I had no idea what roles were outside of just reading what it said in the game. Many of you will recall that back at that point in the game there was not a whole lot as far as tutorials are concerned, so it was easy to get lost. It was easy to just, not know what the heck you're doing. And so that's what was going on. And so, we'd go into a mission and I picked the flame because I knew that did damage. And so I go in and I just start playing the game like I would play a single player game. And she's, telling me, go over here and get this, go over there and get that. So I'm running all over the place in the mission, collecting this and that. Meanwhile, my team's out there, my tank, controller, and healer out there playing by themselves. No damage is getting done. So it did not make us very popular group mates. So basically we started learning from a friend who had been a longtime MMO player. I figured out, or he taught me how to get into roles. The leader of our league was very helpful as far as that's concerned too, once we got into the Kryptonian gladiators. And so Android definitely pointed us in the right direction in several different ways. And so we started getting better. We started evolving. We started building our tune. And then I realized what a DPS was. Then I got into roles. I started to understand, that the four roles are extensions of each other, and we're all part of the same unit. We're different fingers on the hand. I really got into the synergy of playing in roles. So I started working my butt off to learn how to DPS with my power set. At the time I was Rage. Well, I didn't start out Rage. I started out Fire, became Rage. Started learning how to use my power set, started learning combinations, started modding my gear properly, building skill points. We went on a rampage for skill points. And so we really got engulfed in that aspect of the game. And that's where, I don't know if many of you guys remember, but the dummies in the Watchtower used to be much, much different. And, well, they didn't look different, but they were attacked differently. They took damage differently, I guess I should say. And so there was a point where I saw a YouTuber who just absolutely, and I'm not going to say who it was, it's someone who no longer plays the game, but very good YouTuber, very good player. A lot of people have learned how to DPS from him. But there was a point where I was watching a YouTube video of this guy just killing this dummy. I mean, it was like a blink. You couldn't even tell basically that he had killed it, and it was over and over and over and over again. So that became my goal, and I would go to the dummy, and it would take me 15 minutes to get it down, get its health down, and so that became my goal. That's how I structured, or that's how I weighed myself against other players, was how quickly could I take down that dummy. And eventually, finally, with a lot of work, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of hating myself for sucking, I eventually got to the point where I could kill that dummy just as fast as he could, if not faster. I didn't have the ability to record at that point, so I do have some video of it that I took on my cell phone at the time. I don't know if I've ever posted it on the channel or not, but it's trash video. And people that fight the dummy now would probably have no idea what that meant, but back then that was something if you could do that. So I was very, very proud of myself. It gave me a lot of confidence that we had completely sucked and we had worked ourselves to get to a point, and we did not have a group of people that was dragging us through getting us skill points. A lot of the big leagues, we're a big league, But a lot of the big leagues, they all run stuff together. They go out and they grind skill points together, and that's the thing. That's how they get their new members built up to the level. That is not how we operate, or how we operated at the time. So every bit of anything that we got was from pugging. We pugged everything. We didn't know another way. We thought that's how you were supposed to play the game. So yeah, everything was pugged. Nothing was planned. We didn't go out and say, okay, today we're going to get these 5 skill points. Essentially, we would go into a mission and just hope that the other team members were on board with working on the skill point that we were working on, and if they weren't, we just went through and completed the mission and didn't worry about it. So, not to mention, we both had really good jobs at the time, so replay badges were not a thing. We didn't care. I hate to think of how much money we spent on replay badges over the years. That has changed. However, I still have a really good job, but now we have a baby, so all of our money goes to diapers and whatnot. But my point is, it was a great amount of self-esteem that was given based on this game, and maybe that's wrong. Maybe to put so much emphasis or to tie your self-esteem to a video game is wrong, but that's what I did. I mean, I'm a 36-year-old guy. I love comic books. I love superheroes. In my world, in my real life, I used to be athletic. I played sports, not so much anymore, but there's nothing in my life that I really compete about. So the fact that I was able to accomplish something, try hard, and get to a level, maybe not the greatest level, but to me it was doing pretty good. That meant something to me, and it made me happy, especially, and this is the part that I will throw in the especially because I could go and work really, really hard, get skill points. I could go and farm really, really relentlessly and put mods in my gear, and I could up my stats to the point where I could go into a mission. Let's say at the time I'm a combat rating 75, and so I go into missions with guys that are a higher combat rating than me, and I could out DPS them. Not all the time. I mean, yeah, anyone who's run with me knows I'm a moderate to mediocre DPS. But but then it was different. Back then it was, I felt like I did much better. I don't want to say things like I always top the charts, because that's something that's irrelevant. But I did my job. How's that? I did my job. I did it well. We got in and out. We did our business, and that was that. I DPS'd. And I was proud of it. I was happy with it. I felt like a DPS for hire at one point, because everybody knows once you start making friends in the game and stuff, occasionally you'll get random invites to this or that, and so it makes you feel good if somebody wants you to come and help out with a mission. So that's where I was at, and then the dreaded and then everything changed.
Everything changed.
And what I mean is weapon mastery. So the first thing that happened was weapon mastery. And at first I was not excited about it whatsoever. I had a rotation that I was using. It was working really good for me. My skill points were mostly in might, some in precision, because the combos with rage are precision based, so I had a good mix of might and precision. But I didn't really use weapon attacks. I was of the school of thought, I'm a Kryptonian. My character is a Kryptonian. He happened to be, and if you know much about pre-crisis continuity, he happened to be the son of the first Flamebird. And so, the second Flamebird actually, but Akvar is my dad, my character's dad. And so my whole thing was, when I started the game, I was fire, and I was the descendant of Akvar. I was the Flamebird. Blah blah. When Rage came out, that's basically my personality type. If I were to get any lantern ring at all, it would be Rage, because that's just me. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, that's just me. So when Rage came out, I had to have it, And especially once I saw the chains, and it was just like, oh, come on now. I get to spew my hate on people, and it hurts them. That's mine. So I became Rage. I learned it. It worked very well for me. I did not watch any tutorials on how to, which powers to pick, which rotations to use. I figured it out for myself. I was very proud of that. And I was doing really, really well with it. And then Weapon Mastery came out, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't like to use weapons. I don't ever use weapons if I don't have to. That's why I'm a superhero, because I have powers. Now, if I was a character that was modeled after Green Arrow, if I was a character that was modeled after Batman, any of those other heroes, I could understand using weapons. But I was a Kryptonian hero who had been endowed with the power of rage, and I did not understand why I would have to use weapons, but it became evident very, very quickly that in order to keep up as a DPS, I was going to have to use Weapon Mastery. It was just going to have to happen. There was, huge crits happening based on those combos. So what I did was I refused to completely use Weapon Mastery, and I made a good mix of the two. And I thought that was unique. I didn't know, because at the time I was, again, not going to YouTube and looking up things. I was not trying to find different ways to change my rotation and copy what everybody else was doing. I wanted to do it on my own. So I came up with my own rotation that was Weapon Mastery with powers. It was working really well for me again. I went back and I remodded split might and precision, and it was working. I got to the point where I actually liked it, and so I was pretty thrilled about Weapon Mastery at that time. That went on for a little while, and then here comes another change, and they introduced Advanced Mechanics. Now, Advanced Mechanics, a little bit more up my alley, but the thing that happened, and when I'm telling this story, I don't really know, I'm not for sure exactly which came first, whether it was Combat Rating Differential or Advanced Mechanics. But when Combat Rating Differential happened, and the weight of the damage that you were doing changed from your skill points or your stats to what your combat rating was. Originally, combat rating was just what it took to get you into a mission. It was just the qualifier. So it was just basically a percentage, or an overall. They would take a percentage from each piece of gear, and your overall combat rating just represented what level your gear was at. And so if you wanted to go into this certain mission, you needed to be a combat rating 90 or above, or whatever. But it didn't mean when you got in there that was going to necessarily mean you could fight anything, because if you were a combat rating 90 and you had might of like 200, well, obviously you're not doing much damage. But if you go in there and your combat rating's 90 and your might is 12,000, you're going to kill it. So they changed the fact that if you're fighting a boss, and what Combat Rating Differential did, if you're fighting a boss that's a combat rating 90 and you're a combat rating 91, and the other DPS in the mission is a combat rating 89, automatically, without any skill attached to it, and I don't say that to be mean, I just mean, without any modifications attached to it on your end other than the combat rating, you were automatically going to do more damage than the lower combat rating toon. Whether he had 500 might and you had 12,000 might, which wouldn't really happen, but I'm just paving a point here. You guys are going to notice a lot. I hope you notice that I say a lot of things like that. They're Trailer Park Boys references. I'm a big fan of Trailer Park Boys. I watch the crap out of it on Netflix. If you don't, you should give it a shot, but be prepared for some horrible language. But I use Rickyisms all the time, and Paving a Point is one of my favorite ones. So I'm just paving a point here. So that hurt me real bad because number one, when they did the combat differential thing, I noticed right off the bat that, I'm going into a mission and a guy that has a higher combat rating than me is always always out DPSing me. There's nothing I'm going to do about it, no matter his skill level, no matter what. And so that was very frustrating to me, because here I had spent so much time, and I know I'm not the only person in this boat. I'm explaining where these emotions came from, but worked very, very hard to get to where I was, and then all of a sudden I was flatlined, and I couldn't, it just sucked, because I didn't necessarily grind for gear. I was all about, even though I didn't have a lot of them, I was all about skill points and stats. And so this forced me to pay more attention to the gear, and it became very frustrating. So that happened. But also, when Advanced Mechanics came out, if you guys remember, they didn't necessarily come out for all power sets at one time. They did this whole thing where they wanted to balance. And so what happened was Advanced Mechanics came out for like 1 power or 2 powers. The rest of the power sets did not have Advanced Mechanics, so they did not have the power regeneration. They did not have the huge crits for the combo. And it forced everybody to change powers if they wanted to compete. Now, if you didn't have to. And I tried to play that card for quite some time. But then it became evident that was just not going to work. And so eventually, of course, Rage got their Advanced Mechanic. I did switch to Atomic when it came out because of at the time, you could do the Advanced Mechanic with Atomic and get like 180,000 crit. And it was just like, what? Why would I be anything else? So now you have a world where, in order to succeed, you have a 4-button combo pretty much laid out for you, because when the Advanced Mechanics came out, they told us what combos would work. And so everyone's pretty much running around with very similar power sets, using the exact same combos. It all boils down to who gets the power off first and who has the higher combat rating. And at that point, I just kind of stopped caring. I loved the game. I continue to play the game. But it became about something else for me. I kind of flipped over. I started doing more with styles. I started YouTubing. I didn't care about the grind anymore. It was, in my opinion, kind of pointless, because I could get so far, and then that was it. So, and you'd have to wait till the next tier comes out, which was happening a lot faster because they went to the monthly content, but it just felt to me like a rat race. And without a lot to distinguish one player from another. So, and to me, I'm not a NASCAR fan. Okay, when I watch things, when I watch sports, I was a huge basketball fan. Michael Jordan, of course, my favorite player. Dr. J before him, but when I watched sports, I was looking for that Michael Jordan player. I wanted to be that Michael Jordan player. I'm not down with everything's equal and everybody runs at the same pace and let's see who can, I guess bump someone out of the way, or who can draft someone or whatever. That's not me. I would much rather see David and Goliath, or something where it's just maybe even an underdog story. But my point is, I wanted to see some skill happening, not everything being exactly the same. And I don't mean that, again, I don't mean that to be mean. When I say some skill happening, I'm just saying, you could, back in the day, you could refine your own combo. You could make it work for you. You could do what was comfortable for you. There was always somebody doing something slightly different that they had figured out, and they're pulling ahead. They're doing a bit more damage. And so there was always that feeling of needing to upgrade, needing to better yourself, learning different avenues, and being unique. And to me, when combat rating differential and Advanced Mechanics came out, all of that went out the window, because now everybody knows if you hit this button followed by this button followed by this button followed by this button, you're going to get a huge crit. And if your combat rating's the highest, you're going to be the top DPS. And so then you have a lot of new players coming into the game, which was good because they needed to build the player base. But you had a lot of people who were kind of just obnoxious to be around because they really didn't know much outside of grind for combat rating, spam those Advanced Mechanics, and then tell everyone else they suck. And so the game at that point became about something different for me. I started focusing on styles a lot more, started doing our YouTube stuff, and it hurt me. I know I remember very vividly going to the forums and kind of ranting about it, and I regret that now. but it was in the moment, and that's the way I felt. And there were a lot of people in that boat, and so I did not think that it was ever going to go back the other way. Well, I am pleased to announce that it is doing exactly that. After giving this a shot, and they had good intentions. They were trying something new. They hoped to make it a level playing field. They hoped to make the game more universally liked, but it just didn't necessarily work out that way. So we got the announcement not long ago that they're doing away with combat rating differential, and I did a video on that, Stats Matter, talking about how happy I will, I didn't really put anything in it about me being happy. I kind of made it a news thing, because I hate opinion in news. I like news to be news, not opinionated whatsoever. So yeah, but I did a video on it, and a lot of people agreed. I mean, we're excited about it. The combat rating differential is getting phased out. They're going to go back to a situation where the combat rating is simply a measure of the equipment that you're wearing, nothing more, and it doesn't affect the damage at all. Now that's going to come slowly over the next who knows how many months, but it's good news to me, and I hope it's good news to you, because that means all those people who had spent all that time collecting their skill points, you're finally going to get rewarded again for having done that and continuing to do it. So good news there. The other good news in DCUO right now, or that we recently got, this is, it's good news, but it may be frustrating to some people, because now they've come out with advanced mechanics and they've come out with weapon mastery, and both have huge crits attached to them for their specific moves or their specific combos. They're actually doing away with those crits. So you will no longer get damage bonuses for advanced mechanic combos. You will no longer get damage bonuses for weapon mastery combos. You can still do those moves. They still do damage, but you're not going to see these huge crits that we've been seeing over the past year and a half tied to them. So the idea is, and the thought that they have going on right now over at DCUO, and I applaud them for doing this, is that there should be some uniqueness to the game. We are all different heroes with different powers, and we all play the game for a different reason. I might want to go out and shoot a stream of ice at a guy because my character is the grandson of Captain Cold or something, or Mr. Freeze. Like in my current situation, a lot of my tunes are Kryptonian, so I may want to use some power that makes me feel like I'm Kryptonian. Heat vision, freeze breath, and those things haven't been getting used because they don't do very good damage. And so what they're doing is they're making a format now where we can choose our own powers, we can make our own combos, and those combos and powers will be just as effective as the advanced mechanics or as the weapon mastery. So finally, again, we get to play the game our way. So it's a free-to-play game. Now we get to play it our way again, and that used to be a thing that we would say all the time, was you could play it your way. It's like McDonald's. Because there were so many options, and then those options got limited by advanced mechanics and by weapon mastery. So very happy to hear those two things. That's going to be happening over the course of probably the rest of the year. I don't know if we'll see much of that over the next couple of months, but that is their goal. They're going to take those things and they're going to make those adjustments, so finally we can go into a mission, and if you want to use the powers that you like as opposed to the powers that you're being told you have to use, you'll be just as efficient as the other guy, assuming that you've put the time into your stats that the other guy has. That's the caveat to that. So in my opinion, very good news on the front of DCUO. One more piece of news that we'll go into before we switch to DCTV and start talking about Gotham and the Flash and Green Arrow, or Arrow, is the change in the format of how we're going to be getting DLCs. So they had a format in the past where we were waiting long periods of time for DLCs to come out. We were getting a couple big ones a year, huge ones, a year. We'd actually get new maps and various things like that. But it changed to a format where they felt like it was taking a little bit too long. And it was. I mean, you would wait quite a long time to get that next tier or to get that next DLC. And so if you were a person who liked to grind for gear, it was annoying kind of to you. But, it was what it was. Well, they went to a format where we're getting monthly content, and quite honestly, it's a little bit too fast. It's cool to always have new content each month, but at the same time, like right now, for the first time in a long time, I'm behind almost an entire tier of gear, or at least the new stuff that just came out, because I just don't have the time to grind every month and get that gear before the next stuff comes out. So they're going back to a format of more kind of slowed down DLCs, not going to be monthly content, but we're going to probably see some bigger, more detailed DLCs. So that I'm not, I think that at this point in my life, that's going to work perfect for me because, I'm a new parent. We don't have a lot of game time. I've probably played 15 minutes this week so far, which is ridiculous. I mean, I used to play for 3-4 hours a night at least. And when we were jobless, it was 24 hours a day. But the point is, for me, it's probably going to work out great. Now, for some of the younger crowd or the folks that can be more dedicated to the game, it might feel like a step backwards to you. I don't know. Hopefully, the format goes back to a little bit slower drop on the DLCs, but not as lengthy as it had been, or not as lengthy of a wait as it had been in the past. So we'll have to see what the plan is on that. But that all to come. And then, of course, I failed to mention it yet. We did a video on it. You can now skip to level 25 with your tunes. It's a thing you've got to purchase, but it is now possible. If you want to skip the lower level missions of the game, you can now jump immediately to level 25. And so, I don't know. There's a few back and forth kind of thoughts that I have on that. I'm going to save that for a later time. I think I've probably ranted about DCUO for enough time. So that is the DC Universe Online section of our show. Again, DCUO is a free-to-play game. You can download it. It's now on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3, Xbox One, and PC. All free-to-play. Check it out at DCUniverseOnline.com. Moving on to the DCTV section of the show. It's been a slow start for me. I don't know. We're going to talk about each show that's aired so far. Gotham, of course, has aired 2 episodes at this point. Here's my thing with Gotham, and we'll talk about Gotham first. Gotham on Fox. At this point, I wish every DC TV show was on the CW. I know a lot of people don't necessarily like the CW, but I do. We've been watching it since it was the WB. Of course, we watched Smallville from the beginning, and so still my all-time favorite show. And the fact that basically this evolution has happened in television since Smallville, I attribute it to Smallville. I mean, honestly, at the time, there really weren't superhero TV shows, and if there were, they were disguising themselves as something else, even so much that when Smallville came out, in order to gain popularity, they had to go with the no flights, no tights mentality, just to sell the idea and get it on network television. The evolution from the beginning of Smallville, where they almost wouldn't even acknowledge that he was Superman, to the end of the show, where you've got the Justice League making appearances, the JSA making appearances. They really paved the way for what's happening now, in my opinion, with these other DC TV shows. I feel like the CW definitely deserves that recognition, and so, we've got Supergirl moving there this year, or has moved there. I really hope something similar happens with Gotham. and that they can tie that show in somehow to the DCTV multiverse. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but, we'll wait and see. My thing with Gotham is I really just want it to be Batman at this point. They did a wonderful job, in my opinion, in the first season, setting the stage, of a young Bruce Wayne. They showed us, how the Waynes were tragically murdered, how Bruce witnessed it, how he dealt with it. The beginning of some of these characters like Catwoman or Selena Kyle at this point, Ivy, the villains. I really like what they've done with the Penguin, with Riddler. So to me, they set the stage up perfectly. Now, season 2, really, they got into this thing where Bruce is undercover, or Bruce is discovering what's been going on at his company, and so he knows that there's some deceit going on there. He knows that this kind of shadow council has been involved in the death of his parents, or he has an idea of that. And so they left us last season with the cliffhanger, that he was starting to get involved in this and starting to figure these things out. And really, with the premiere of this season, the first 2 episodes that I've watched anyway, they could have really just cut here, jump some time, and have Bruce going on his way to train, as far as I'm concerned. I really don't know where they're going with it next. We've got several things happening in the plot now that seem like they should be happening when Batman's around, and he's just a little bit too young at this point. For the first show here, I don't want to give a whole lot of spoilers. I realize that kind of takes away from our audience. Some people haven't seen the episodes yet. They don't really want to know exactly what's going on. So basically, I'm going to give you an idea of what's happening, or what's starting to happen, what they hope to accomplish in season 3 of Gotham. Not going to give away too many spoilers, but if you really don't want to know anything, now would be the time that you kind of want to put the earmuffs on, or maybe turn the volume on the earphones down. That might work. That would probably be the way to go. So basically what we're getting into here is pretty much a fully formed Gotham at this point. Not really fully formed, but we're seeing Penguin come into his own. We're seeing that a few more of the famous villains from the Batman comics are coming into fruition here. So I'm just going to read you an excerpt from Fox.com, kind of an overview of what they expect to be seeing this season, and that'll, if you haven't watched anything yet, it's not going to really give anything away, but it will entice you to go ahead and watch the first couple episodes of season 3. So the origin story continues on season 3 of Gotham, and the stakes are higher than ever as supervillains more ambitious and depraved are introduced, and a realignment of alliances shakes up the fight for power in Gotham City. Season 3 will peel back the curtain on the infamous criminal organization known as the Court of the Owls. With the Indian Hill escapees on the loose, Jim Gordon, Ben McKenzie, must take matters into his own hands as a bounty hunter in Gotham. So now we have Gordon no longer on the police force. He's a bounty hunter, so he's basically going after the big bads that the police force can't handle and turn them over to the cops. He's getting paid for it, so he's doing all right. He makes it his mission to find Hugo Strange, the mastermind behind the horrifying Indian Hill experiments, and Fish Mooney, one of Strange's subjects. So Fish Mooney back on the show now. If you were a fan of Jada Pinkett Smith being on Gotham, you get your wish. She's back on the show, at least here for a little while. Meanwhile, GCPD Detective Harvey Bullock and Captain Nathaniel Barnes remain at the forefront of the fight against crime in the monster-ridden city. So all of the experiments gone wrong, if you want to look at it that way, in Arkham are now on the loose in Gotham City. Also, Bruce Wayne, with the help of his trusted butler and mentor Alfred Pennyworth, and former Wayne Enterprises employee Lucius Fox, discovers there are still more secrets to uncover regarding his parents' murders. I really like them bringing in Lucius here and making him a part of this now. As the city sinks deeper into chaos, Gotham will continue to follow the evolving stories of the city's most malevolent heroes, the Penguin, who is, I mean, he's the Penguin at this point. Looks like he's going to be running for mayor, and he's probably going to win. And I really like Robin Lord Taylor playing the role. Obviously, he's not the typical Penguin that we think of, the little round guy that looks like a penguin. But man, this guy can act. He's nailing the part. He's made me like Penguin. I've never been a huge fan of the character. I thought he was cool, obviously. I like Danny DeVito's interpretation of the character. Kind of neat, but kind of disgusting. This one I can buy as an actual person. And someone that would be elected mayor and would be a crime boss in Gotham. So we'll see how that goes. But also Edward Nygma getting back into the mix here. Corey Michael Smith, Selena Kyle. Let's see, Barbara Keene, who I don't have any idea who they're trying to make her. I thought for a while maybe she was going to be Harley Quinn, but we know already from a clip that actually had Harley Quinn in it that that's not the case. So I'm not real sure where they're going with Barbara Keene's character. Tabitha Gallivan, very big part of Season 3 still. And of course, good old Butch. Everybody loves Butch. I'm glad to see Drew Powell still on the show. I'm glad to see Butch and Penguin together. It hurts me when they're not. I don't know why. It says the series will also catch up with the future Poison Ivy. So they've changed the actress playing Poison Ivy, in case you didn't know that. After an encounter with a monster from Indian Hill, she finds herself reborn as a young woman, so she's a bit older, and she's harnessed the full power of her charms and will dive into the origin story of Jervis Tetch, who's also known as the Mad Hatter. We've seen him on the show now. He's a talented hypnotist teetering on the edge of madness, and the Tweed brothers. So I like what they're doing with the Mad Hatter. I didn't really realize that he was kind of a hypnotist, and then I went back and looked it up, and yeah, he does use mind control devices and whatnot. So I'm, especially with this being Halloween time, the fact that they're kind of bringing in the Mad Hatter and making it, Gotham's already a spooky place. It's already like Halloween 24, 365 around that place, but it just has a good feel for it for this time of year. So we'll see where they're going with it. The last couple episodes, like I said, good to watch. I have no clue where they're going with this clone of Bruce. So they've introduced a clone. We're assuming at this point it's a clone of Bruce Wayne. He's now found his way to Bruce. He's kind of taken on his identity, and he's running off with Selena to try and help her out. And I have no idea what they're doing with that either. We'll see. I mean, I'm trying to think of what this could possibly be. Hush keeps coming to mind. If that is what they're doing, it's going to be dramatically different from the origin stories of Hush, given that he's not a clone. But I don't know. So we'll see. So that is Gotham, Monday nights on Fox at 8 o'clock. Like everything good, it comes on at 8 o'clock. And we should have another new episode coming up this Monday, so do not miss it if you're a fan. And if you're not a fan, give it a try. It's a good show. But we're going to move on to probably, aside from Supergirl, my favorite show on DCTV right now, Flash. So we had Flashpoint happen this week. We finally got into the next season of Flash. This is what I've been waiting for. I had been wanting to see Flashpoint happen. To me, this is going to spark the 52 universe deal, or 52 Earths deal in DCTV. Hopefully it's going to be, it seems like it's going to be the way that Laurel Lance, and I don't know if anyone else has caught this or not, but they're telling us that Laurel Lance is coming back on Arrow. So seems to be that this Flashpoint has kind of been the catalyst for a lot of changes that are coming, and a lot of maybe making things a little bit closer to the stories that we know from the comics. We'll see if that's the case, or if they choose to go a different way. The thing about the DC TV universe is it's its own universe. So, they're not just simply retelling what's happened in the comics. They're they're putting a new spin on things. They're making it their own. And it's cool to see that happen. It really is. I mean, as a fan of comics, obviously I would like to see them just completely rehash all of my favorite stories and bring them to life. But the reality of that is that, new directors, screenwriters, actors, they all want to put their own tag on it. And, there's nothing wrong with that. We've got that happening right now in the movies. It's always happening in the movies. And so, I'm just enjoying the ride. But so we had Flashpoint this week, and I'll be quite honest with you, I liked it because I'm a fan of the show, and it was neat to be able to see, Barry go back and stop the death of his mother. It was cool to see Thawne back on the show and the interactions that they had between each other, but it really wasn't necessarily what I was expecting. I kind of hoped for more, but what happens when I say that is the next few episodes are going to clear up my problems. I know that. I know that throughout the rest of the season, that's not going to be the only time they're touching on it. See, I thought, Flashpoint can't be wrapped up in one episode, It's got to be an ongoing thing, because obviously it was a series in the comics. And so there's a lot more to that story to be told, and I think that we're going to find out along the way that a lot of the concerns maybe that folks have are going to get taken care of. So I'm trying not to be a negative Nelly right off the bat, but it was very good. I definitely enjoyed the fact that, Barry goes back, he saves his mom, he stops Thawne, and I'm not going to go into details of how he does, because we'll let that all be a surprise, but to folks who haven't seen it yet. But my point being, the fact that Barry thought he's saving things, he's fixing things, he's doing what he hoped would have been done to begin with. His whole life he's hated the fact that his mom was taken from him. He feels like his life has just been wrong ever since, and I can relate. Anyone who's lost a parent can relate to that. For the rest of your life, you feel like you're living in an alternate reality, and you wish, your most desperate internal wish is that you could go back and have that life back, that family back that was taken from you. And so I think there's a lot of people that can relate to that. So he finally does. He saves his mom. He throws caution to the wind. He changes the timeline. And so what he finds when he goes back is he still has his speed powers. But number one, there's a new Flash. He's not the Flash anymore. Number two, he was never part of the West family. So, Joe, little to no relationship with Joe. Iris, same thing. Nobody knows who he is. I know we all know at this point who the Flash is, because we've seen, hopefully, you've seen the spoilers out there. So obviously right now, in this new timeline that he's created, Wally is the Flash. Cha-ching! I get my wish. Because, those of you who've been watching the show for a while remember, Wally is my Flash. I grew up... Well, I don't know if I grew up. I was already grown up by the time I started loving Wally West, really. But Wally was my Flash. Everyone else related with Barry. I related with Wally. He's my kind of guy. And so, I was very happy to see Wally West be the Flash. They really, really, really got the suit down. It's damn near the Kid Flash suit from the comics. He looks real good in it. I mean, I couldn't have asked the kid playing Barry or Wally. I couldn't have asked for a better actor to play Wally, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, I love that guy. He nails the lines. He just nails it. He is Wally West. And so it's cute to see the interaction, because in this world, in this timeline, he is the Flash. He got his powers similarly to how I said last season he was going to get his powers. I had always thought that it was going to have something to do with racing and something to do with nitrous, and it does. I won't go into detail. They'll explain it to you if you watch the episode. But the guy embodies everything that he should for Wally West at this point. So he's become the Flash. He's got these powers. He's not had a team like Barry had. He doesn't know the science behind any of it necessarily. The only person that he's got on his team Flash is Iris. And so, it's a brother-sister team. He's out there pretty much winging it. And he's got his own villain, the Rival. For those of you who don't know the Rival, how do I say this? He's kind of like the Reverse Flash. He is the Reverse Flash to Jay. So he's a Jay Garrick villain. I'm not quite sure why they brought him in as a Wally West villain here, but it's cool nonetheless. So they've got the Rival. Wally's constantly fighting with the Rival. Barry realizes he cannot just sit back and watch. I mean, he's got this perfect life now. He's got his mom back. His mom and dad are together. His dad was never tried for his mom's murder, obviously, because she's still alive. And so he has this perfect family that he always wanted. He's got his job. He doesn't have the girl yet, but he ends up getting, he finally takes the initiative to ask Iris out. She agrees. Looks like things are going to go great with them. They're hitting it off right off the bat. So, he has everything he wants. And he cannot explain why he can't stay away from being the Flash. So he sees that, Wally's kind of struggling with this guy. So he jumps in to help. He does what Barry Allen would do. He doesn't sit on the sidelines and watch things go awry. He jumps in and helps. Now, when he starts doing that, he starts to lose his memories of the past timeline. So the two timelines are merging together here, and so his is being erased as the other one's being written. And he figures out, or he's told, we'll let you see how this happens, but he figures out that basically the more he uses his speed, the more he's going to lose his memories. And so he realizes he's got not a lot of chances here to right things. So he goes and he helps Wally. And I'll spare you the details. You can watch them for yourself. Again, I keep saying that. But I think you'll enjoy it much better that way. But they end up taking down the bad guy. But the coolest thing ever through the whole episode is that, Barry's the Flash in his world. Wally's the Flash in his world. And so Barry keeps calling Wally Kid Flash. And Wally keeps saying, I'm not Kid Flash. I'm the Flash. And at some point they're bickering. They've been bickering back and forth about it. Not really bickering, but joking, And Iris looks at Wally and she's like, you're Kid Flash. He's the Flash. It's just a hilarious moment. And so just a real nice nod to the history of those characters. But at any rate, I know you guys, if you know anything about Flashpoint, you know that he does have to end up going back and resetting things because, he can't. He realizes that what he's done is not right. He's changed everything, and people are suffering for his happiness is one of the lines that he states. So at one point, Thawne tells him, someday you're going to beg me to kill your mom. And Barry's like, what? Whatever, no way. But yeah, he does have to go, and Thawne makes him ask. And so essentially, Thawne does go back and take out his mom, and things get reset. But what we find out is that some things are still different, and he doesn't know why, and that's kind of where we're left. So we'll start finding out more next episode what those changes are and what he can do, because what does he do? He can't just keep going back and resetting the same day over and over again. Maybe that's what he's going to do, but we'll have to watch and find out. So very promising season coming up for The Flash. That's Tuesday nights at 8 on the CW, and it's only aired once so far. We've only seen one episode. This coming Tuesday will be the second episode of the season, so very much looking forward to that. If you're a fan of Flash and you haven't watched it yet, get on it. The next show on our DCTV lineup is Arrow, which has also aired one episode. It's Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock on the CW. Arrow off to a very Arrow start, sticking with the same format of doing the flashbacks. I start to wonder a lot of times when I'm watching the show, how can they keep coming up with things that are in Ollie's past that we, the viewers, don't know about? Because they keep doing flashbacks to 5 years ago, or very similar timelines. It's always a very close jump to the past kind of shots that or the memories that they're showing, and it's always something we had no idea was happening. So what we see happening this time is Ollie basically getting beat into some kind of mafia, and it I don't know. It's good though, because they time it out right. They keep us in suspense about something that they really shouldn't be able to keep us in suspense about. And it continues to make the show good. That's one of the things that I love about DCTV. Each show is its own show. Gotham, obviously on a different channel, so it's a very different show. But Flash, Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow, all on the same channel, in the same universe, but very, very different shows in the way that they tell the story. The storytelling is very different in each show. And to me, that's what keeps me interested. The fact that when I tune into Arrow, I'm going to feel like I'm in Star City. I'm going to feel like it's a Green Arrow comic. When I tune into Flash, I'm going to feel like I'm in a Flash comic. And I love that. I'm glad that they're doing that right and nailing those things. But here we find the aftermath of last season. So basically, Team Arrow is falling apart. Diggle's gone back to the military. Speedy's not Speedy anymore. She's gone back to a normal life of whatever it is that rich young girls do. Felicity and Ollie not together right now. I don't really know what's going on with that. Felicity seems to be with another guy. That's just weird. But so we're seeing Oliver on his own again. Basically, it's a reset back to, I don't know if it's the status quo or not, but basically just a reset back to where things started. He's alone. He's got really no team outside of Felicity and Mr. Terrific. And I know he's Mr. Terrific. He's going to be Mr. Terrific, so I'm just calling him that. And so basically he's starting from scratch. We're watching the emotions that are tied to him missing his old team, and then having to come to the realization that the old team is not getting back together. That's going to be it. He's tried to get his sister involved again. She doesn't want to be. She's very unhappy with him for the way that he's conducting himself. He's gone back to his mentality of, if I kill the guy, he's not going to commit any more crimes. So she's not happy with that. He's kind of struggling with that himself, based on the memory of Laurel, because now Laurel's dead. And basically Ollie blames himself. He feels like if he would have taken care of things and done what he ended up doing anyway, which is killing the villain, then she would still be alive. And he's not wrong, really. I mean, he's got a point. The only thing is, that's not the way that heroes work, or some heroes. Now, Green Arrow, different kind of hero. And in fact, a lot of people are going to remember that there was a time not long ago when Hal Jordan and Oliver went off on their own away from the Justice League because of the no-kill policy. They wanted to be, they thought that needed to be an option. When times were that bad and the villain was that bad, they felt like there had to be somebody who was willing to do what had to be done. So that's the mentality that Oliver's had in the comics, for some time. So to see him kind of reverting back to that now that he is alone and he doesn't have the inspiration to be the hero that he was trying to be, it makes sense. So we're watching Oliver struggle in that regard. And then we see kind of come full circle. He has a good conversation with Diggle, and he realizes that the team's not getting back together, so he better start doing what he can to build a new team. And so that's when we start to see some familiar faces popping up from the DC universe in the Arrowverse. And we see in the clip for next episode that Oliver's going to start training a lot of these heroes, chiefly involved Mr. Terrific. And I'm excited to see how that process goes and see Mr. Terrific become the character that we all know and love. So Arrow, Wednesday nights at 8 on the CW. And then we have no other DC TV shows this week. Legends of Tomorrow is not till next week. Supergirl premieres on the CW September 10th, or October 10th. I said September. It's been a crazy couple of months, but very excited for that. Why? because we're going to have Supergirl is going to have her very own Superman, and I'm really, really excited to see what they've done with the character. Everyone who has watched this, every website that has reviewed it, has said that it's the most amazing thing, that he nails the part. Tyler Hoechlin, I have no idea how to say his last name. That's why I've kind of stayed away from saying it, but Tyler, very cool guy. If you have ever watched Teen Wolf, he plays one of the characters. He actually plays the alpha werewolf there for a while, and I loved him. He is compassionate. He has soul in his eyes. I don't know any other way to say it. So I knew when they announced that he was going to be playing Superman that he was going to do a good job, at least with conveying who Superman is and the essence of that character. The look I'm not so sure about, because he kind of does look like a werewolf, but I'm giving it a shot because I think he's gonna shock a lot of people. I don't think that a lot of the people who have looked at him and said, he doesn't necessarily look right. I don't necessarily think they've seen him act before. And when you've got the depth that he does in conveying the emotions through the eyes, that's one thing that to me an actor has to be able to do. You got to be able to deliver the lines, but you have to be the character. You have to embody the character, not only physically through your facial expressions, but you have to have soul in your eyes when you're delivering those lines, and he does. So not very few, but those are the big actors that you can think of that have made a career out of playing very different characters. That's a skill that they all have. Look at Ben Affleck. His Batman, just incredible. The way that he can look and just have the most kind of statuesque looking expression on his face, like expressionless. But you can just look at his eyes and he can tell you a story. It's incredible. So that's the kind of performance I'm expecting that we're going to see out of Tyler. So if you have been a fan of Supergirl, it was on ABC. It's now moving to the CW. It will be Monday nights at 8, and that will start this coming Monday. This is a recorded show, but October 10th. But if for nothing else, tune in to see what they're going to do with Superman, because everyone else, in my opinion, at this point, aside from Smallville, who they made the character a little bit different, but they captured the essence of him. But going back to the Christopher Reeve movies, the Donner films, I like to call them. Since then, so I have to say also Superman Returns goes into that group, and that's another actor that has nailed the role and has shown us the soul of Superman as Brandon Routh, and I really wish he could play Superman in the current films or something, TV show, whatever, but the world needs Brandon Routh back as Superman. No offense to Henry Cavill. He's a great actor. He's doing a wonderful job playing the character that they've written, but I just don't like that character as much. So, it is what it is at that point. I can't really change how I feel about it. But Supergirl has been a show that from the day one has captured the essence of superheroes and of Supergirl to me. The show has been exactly what a superhero show should be. Enough of the dark, just nonsense. It's great for Arrow. It's great for some of the other characters. It's not great for Superman. It's not great for Supergirl. So, to me, the new TV show has captured the essence of Supergirl. I expect they're going to do the same thing with Superman. Going back to the line from season 1 that Jimmy delivers, where Supergirl's asking, "What's he like? What's Superman like?" And Jimmy he responds with something to the effect of, just imagine the greatest hero you've ever known and everything that you would expect Superman to be, and he's more than that. And so that, to me, I knew right off the bat they know where the soul is in Superman. So hopefully we're going to see that in the upcoming episode. I am very excited. We may actually live stream after Supergirl because I may be too excited to hold it in, depending on how it goes. If it's horrible, then maybe not. But I expect that it's going to be great. So I hope you do too. And then, of course, next week is Legends of Tomorrow. We'll go into that in more detail, when we get to once it airs. I like Legends of Tomorrow. I will always support everything that Brandon Routh is in, but I just haven't been as captivated with that show as the others, but that isn't going to stop me from reporting on it. So, and I also encourage you guys to go over and check out DCComics.com. I'm not going to go over and do poll lists and stuff like that now because, quite frankly, by the time you listen to this show, it may be the next week. So it's kind of pointless. But the New York Comic Con is going on right now. If you're watching this between the 6th and the 9th of October. If you're listening to this between the 6th and 9th of October, New York Comic Con is going on. So if you happen to be in the area, you may want to make your way up there. But do visit DCComics.com because they have got a lot going on their website right now. A lot of good information. And, as Season 2 of DCU Tonight goes on, I'm going to continue to go over there and talk about DC Comics news. And they have a very excellent news page that lets folks know kind of upcoming things, upcoming events, books, shows, and that kind of thing. So we'll go cover that in more detail in upcoming episodes. But for this show, I have bludgeoned you long enough, and I thank you for joining us. This has been DCU Tonight. I'm your host, Rock Var. We'll be back next week. Please, please, please share and like the video. Subscribe to VAR Nation if you haven't already, because then you'll get updates when new shows are posted. You can also follow us on Twitter at VAR_Nation. VARNationDCUO.com. We're going to get it back up and running, but still not there yet. So thanks again for joining us. Peace out.